Well, in light of Executive Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda's resignation, we're joined by Dr Sysman Motloung. He's a political science lecturer from the Northwest University. Thanks very much for joining us. So, Mayor Gwamanda has formally resigned, clearly under pressure, as he, of course, wanted to vacate that post much later. What's your assessment of his performance or legacy as the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg?
Okay, thanks for having me. I think we have to look at how Al-Jama communicated to the public when Mr. Gwamanda was appointed. And one of their argument was he is going to restore confidence in people who have really grown weary and have really become complacent and apathetic in attitude towards the public institutions. So we see in what Al-Jama was saying, they've been idealistic that this is a man on the street, this is a man on the ground, and this is somebody who really represents or practically manifests the representation of minority parties. This is what Al-Jama was saying about him. And when we have to evaluate that, we see that we can say he failed dismally, because ever since he was in public, in office, there's been a negative public sentiment about him. People have been saying he is not visible, he is not seen, even though Al-Jama was arguing that there is a report, a positive report of his leadership. Look at that. But majority of his time has been somebody who's aloof, away from the public eye. When he had to speak in public, he also seemed to be the person who's in the shadows, so controlled. Al-Jama says that he's a puppet mayor, is a narrative that the media and opposition panted of him. But we see a person who is not really in it. He was not owning that position. I think because of that, it made him a weak person. We cannot speak now generally to say Mr. Gwamanda brought certain. We cannot point those achievements that he brought. It is really something you have to dig in and see what he did. But generally, the face value, we can say it was an even below average mayor, in my view. So he was there only to bring into fulfillment the arrangement of a coalition between ANC, EFF, and these minor parties, and to only symbolically represent the minor parties, give them a voice in executive leadership.
Yeah. So what happens next? I mean, we're hearing that Dada Morero could soon be replacing Gwamanda. What do you think is going to happen next?
Yeah, it's most likely that is likely to happen, because the rumors that have been coming through in the past 2 weeks, we see them becoming true. So there is no reason really to doubt these rumors as to who will replace him. And it does make sense. I think this is the time where ANC also wants to be visible and to provide leadership, if we call it, but they want to be visible and heard in the public in terms of how they can change and turn around the city that is in disarray. I think it is important, it is responsible of the ANC to seek this kind of changes, because the sentiment about Johannesburg itself are very negative. It's a city that is degenerating, it is decaying, and we don't see so much of a strategic leadership, visionary leadership, decisive in how to turn around those sentiments, even rebuilding the infrastructure, make the city vibrant and relevant. So we see that there's a big leadership vacuum in that city, and it is unfair, it is unjust if you have this kind of a leadership that is a ANC, and you have them sitting in the back burners without really providing an opportunity for change.
Yeah. So at a broader level, how would you say the government of national unity setup has impacted on local governance, particularly in key municipalities like the metros? Yeah, I think it does come to trickle down. I think even this kind of a change is something that ANC has been emboldened. Remember when ANC wanted to bring in these minor parties into the fray, it was because they were disgruntled. The minor parties were disgruntled how the Democratic Alliance treated them. It treated them really like minors, did not give them a voice. And ANC sort of said, even EFF did not so much want the executive, but it said include them. So there was this demand and necessity to make and express practical
representation of minor parties. And this is what Al-Jamaa appreciated when they were brought in. So that was necessary. With the GNU coming through, it also changes the political landscape in that NC wanted to know after the national elections if it can rely on these minor parties. And now it has really brought them into the fold. So it is emboldened even more to make this kind of a change without alienating those smaller parties. So I think in a sense, the GNU brought that stability and allayed the sentiment of these minor parties without them really feeling affront and a big affront about being sidelined. So there's no sentiment of being sidelined at all. And I think this is where NC feels more comfortable to even assert its position.
I think the ordinary man and woman on the street is probably quite tired of all these political maneuvers. But given the latest maneuvers that we're seeing in Johannesburg, do you think that this at all means that the Johannesburg citizen is going to get a better deal? Because ultimately, that's what's important. And the ANC has been in government on its own in the past, and the decline happened under their watch.
Definitely. For many years, ANC has been criticized for its arrogance. Some were calling it the arrogance of power, that ANC knows, Oriona, it will come back to power, like it or not. And that made them very complacent, not to heed to the demands of the people, even when they were consulting. It was really hearing them, but not doing what people wanted. So over time, that had eroded the dominance of the ANC. But now, we were asking a very important question. If you have a new leadership, what difference will this make? It is one question I've been asking when we've been talking with political leaders. So what really a difference does a mayor make? If you replace somebody with Motloung, will Motloung really have significant power to bring about change? And I think institutionally, there are those restrictions that make mayors to come in and excitement about them, but change doesn't come because there's some systemic issues and structural issues that are impediments. So currently, ANC and any political party knows that people need that change. It is not talk. Don't talk much, but implement those changes. Put money where it should be and make sure that money is used for what it's supposed to do. And corruption has to be really put aside. And the revitalization of infrastructure in Johannesburg is something that needs to be done. When people see these projects, when people feel this kind of a difference, their trust in the political system is restored. Otherwise, there will be deepening that distrust and complacency or apathy, where we see so many executive changes, but materially, we don't see a difference. Then people start saying, what's on, politics doesn't help, voting doesn't help. So it's more about program implementation and seeing what difference that could be made. Material changes will restore intellectual and emotional confidence in people related to the political system.